Hi everyone. Today I'm going to start a new series of lessons or mini webinars on emotional regulation. So what I'm trying to do is compile few resources and just make them into a curriculum pretty much for parents and anyone who is in the position of being a child caregiver. So the first lesson is a little bit philosophical or theoretical, but I think it addresses the foundation of how we approach challenges that we see in our children's life when it comes to their behavior. So I want to focus on that foundation. So what do I mean by that? I want to look at our ultimate goal. What are we trying to do here? Are we trying to manage a behavior, or is there something bigger that we're trying to get at? What we seek to achieve will either limit or enable the child to achieve his or her potential. So if all of my goals for a particular child is to stop a negative behavior, then this is the best that I will get to. But if my goal is something bigger, I will address the negative behavior, but I'll also help the child to achieve something more. And I'll elaborate that with more concrete examples as I go on. But also our perceptions. And what do I mean by that? Perceptions impacts the way we understand our reality, including why a child is behaving this way. Again, I'll give more and more concrete examples as I go through the foundations part. But if all my interpretations are limited to this child is manipulative, controlling, then I might be missing other reasons why a child is behaving this way. And if I miss these reasons, then I'm missing part of reality, and I'm not addressing the behavior in the proper way. And this is exactly what I was getting at. So our perception will influence our choices. If I see a green light, my choice is to continue pressing on the gas pedal. But if I misperceived that, then I'll end up making the wrong choice. And which leads me to my next point. Misconceptions will bias our perception. So how I react to the child's negative behavior, if I see it as the child is not able to control their emotions and they're exploding, as opposed to this child is trying to control me, my reactions to the exact same behavior will differ drastically. And as a result, if I am seeing things in this biased way, my reality is going to be distorted. And I won't be able to function, and failure and frustration will likely be the end outcome. So if this is not too philosophical, I have more. So we have to go through some deep things before I go to the practical things, strategies, etc. Remember how I said in the previous slide that we need to have two things in check: our ultimate goal and our perceptions. So going to point number one, which is our goal. Is our goal as parents or educators, or if you're a child caregiver, foster parent, whatever you may be, but you are in that sort of authoritative and caregiving role. Is our goal for us and for our children to survive or thrive? Now, depending on our choice, this whole behavioral management, emotional regulation is going to change. Now, next I talked about our perceptions. So when teenagers go through some education about how alcohol can affect your vision and so perception, they have them practice putting a goggle on, and then you kind of try and navigate your environment. But those goggles are not actually, they don't provide the right input. So what ends up happening is you are moving like a person who's drunk would be. And our perceptions behave that way. So if we are misinterpreting the child, their triggers, their skills, what they need, then we may act like we are drunk. We're making the wrong choices. We're misunderstanding what's going on around us. So our goal needs to extend more than just survive the day. Even though as a parent, I know, and even though I work in the school, I know that there are some days where your ultimate goal is, I need to survive that day. I need to get to when is their sleeping time, when is their nighttime coming. But that shouldn't be our ultimate goal. Yes, there are days that are more challenging, but that can't be our only and ultimate goal. But why do I say this? Now I want you to reflect on those days where you felt like all I need is to survive. I want you to reflect on your experiences that day. You'll notice the following. You notice that survival mode narrows your vision to a tunnel vision, because all your focus now is, let's stop this behavior. I don't want another meltdown. Let's just keep things in check. Let's just go through the days, the bare bone of our day. Let's just get it done and go. So it gives you that tunnel vision. You're totally focused on the negative behavior of your child, that you're wanting to get over it and move on. Survival mode makes you feel that you're wasting your time doing conflict and behavior management. You feel like you're a firefighter on call for duty, extinguishing fires throughout the day. So can you imagine, all what you're seeing now is those disruptive behaviors that are kind of happening out of nowhere, like mini volcanoes, and you're trying to extinguish that. Now, how would that affect you? You will feel joyless because you're not enjoying the relationship anymore. All what you're trying to do is calm them down. But also survival mode will eventually turn you from being on alert, that fight response, because you're having to extinguish all these meltdowns and tantrums, to flight. You just want to hide and go under the blanket and just call it a day. But eventually despair if this has been ongoing for a while, because you feel like, I have no other resources left. I can't imagine having to do a day like this anymore. So your body too is experiencing the negative effect of that. You go on adrenaline for a long time, but your body can't sustain that for long. And what ends up happening is you feel drained, and it kind of mirrors what's going on in your body too. Your body is drained because it's been on high demand, high alert for a long time. So my next sort of topic to explore is, what does thrive not mean? We all come from different backgrounds, different cultures. What a good life is and what a happy life is different for everyone. But we could agree, I think, that a happy life or a satisfied life is not necessarily the same thing as a material welfare. Now let me point out this. I have seen kids who we could see how basic needs, when met, they can make jumps and leaps in their development. So kids that come from very harsh backgrounds, the traumatic experience, when they're placed in an environment that provides basic needs like food, drink, shelter, security, you could see them make progress. So what I mean by a happy life is not necessarily the same as material welfare, is not to undermine that there are some basic needs that everyone needs for them to step closer towards thriving. But what I do mean is there is more to the story than just those physical needs met. You could also think about it, the flip coin of that is a child who has lots of toys. They have good house, they come from a rich, well-to-do family, but the relationship is missing. There's lots of anger, there's lots of feelings of abandonment, there's not that interaction. Do you think that this child will not have some sort of a problem at some point behaviorally, whether it's showing in their childhood or building up and kind of exploding in their teenage years? There will be an issue, because to flourish is not just to have food, water, and basic needs. We need more. Now, what does that more mean? So again, we all have different views as what we need to be able to reach that thriving. But I think there are common themes that you will see even in research when they look at who reports that they're satisfied in their life. We strive to be more than doing. It's not just that I have a routine, I have habits, I have things to do, and then I'm happy, although it may seem that way. But we also strive for meaning and cohesive narrative. So by meaning, purpose, we need something bigger that we can have the story of our life's event kind of embedded into. And sometimes when we're facing difficulties and so on, this will help us face those difficulties, those little interruptions that happen in our daily lives. If I can have a meaning for them, if they serve a purpose, we could all agree that they would feel much lighter on us than if we would experience them as random and meaningless. So one way to translate that to our issue is to look at it this way. Providing our children with a rich environment that meets not just their physical need, but also their emotional and spiritual needs is a crucial step to achieve our goal of thriving. Now, by spiritual, I don't necessarily mean religious. There are definitely religious values and understandings that play part in this. But I'm using it in the technical term that we use in occupational therapy, which kind of lies at the core of a human being or who we are. And it goes back into the understanding of meaning and purpose, identity. Those are things that really provide the foundations of our existence. And when they're shaken, you could see issues arise. As I mentioned, so depending on our worldview, how we see things, we will fill the gaps of meaning and purpose, destiny and identity. But I just wanted to bring out that even though we seem to be at the surface dealing with a negative behavior, there is a lot to it, more to it than just that, than dealing with the behavior. Because all of it will tie down to that core of who we are, that the needs that compose our core rather, if they're not met, they too can result in the behavior that we're seeing. So now you're like, okay, this is too much theoretical, too much philosophy. I was not expecting that. I hear you, but let me try and kind of bring together everything. We all want our children to do more than just survive. It is not about, oh, I hope my kid doesn't end up in a gang or on drugs or in prison or whatever it may be that we don't want the child to end up doing. There's more to our child's life that we want to achieve than just that. So even during the days that when survival seems to be all what we hope for, this is true. So as a parent, foster parent, caregiver, whichever your role is in the child's life, think of what thriving or flourishing means. And I want you to reflect on the reasons why you think that this is the proper definition. So I tried to draw the outline of what it is not and what it may look like based on research of people who report being satisfied in life and what do they say. And they link it to more than the meeting of the physical needs, though it is crucial too. As you do your reflection, you'll find out that your daily choices and even big choices relating to how you are raising your child is significantly shaped by this. And I mentioned that at the beginning of the presentation. I gave you the example. If all of my ultimate hopes is just to help this child, stop banging their head, then I may achieve that, but then I would be like, oh, done, goal achieved. But is that all that the child can do? Can I go for even a higher goal? So how my day is shaped, how I choose things will depend on that. If it is also true that human flourishing lies not in just the material needs or that they succeed in the school, even though these are important things, these are good things, but also human relationships, how would this affect your parenting? And how would that affect even me as a therapist of what I'm trying to help a child with? Because even if I give the child all the tools, all the equipment they need, but there isn't that strong relationship, did I achieve my goal? And remember when I talked about a child who has all their basic needs, but they have a relationship that is not stable, they don't have a sense of security, their relationship between their parents is always, there's anger, there's frustration because of the behaviors. How do you see this affecting your parenting? If your goal now shifts from, I want my child to succeed in A, B, C, to I want to make sure that I also have a good relationship with my child, even as educators. How do other professionals such as school teaching and administration staff and therapy services fit into that model, that new model I was talking about, that my goal is not just to meet basic needs, but my goal is to get the child to experience a satisfactory relationship between those key players in their lives. And one of the most key players would be the parent or the caregiver or the foster parent, etc. Also, the child is spending a lot of time in the school where they are meeting their school staff, their teacher, their EA, their therapists, and those relationships are also going to play a crucial part in the child's experience of who they are and of the world in general. So if I'll pick on myself. So if I'm the child's therapist and I'm totally focused on let's get this fine motor goal done, but in the mean process the child is frustrated or they're feeling, oh my gosh, I can't do this, this is too hard, and I'm more demanding and I'm not absorbing their emotional and not recognizing their frustrations, they won't respond to me. Even though I'm giving them the right tools, even though I'm exposing them to the right activities, but they're shut down. They're not ready to learn from me because that relationship is not there. So let me try to now repackage all what I've said into one single slide. So here are some of what I think should be take-home messages. Aim for the higher goal, the flourishing of your child. Don't just settle for, I want to get through that day. Understand that perceptions can lead or mislead us to or away from our goal. I might have the right goal, but if my perceptions and understanding of reality are biased, then at this point, I'm not going to reach that goal. And perceiving that the child's well-being stops at basic and material needs will result in a different set of choices than seeking to meet their emotional and spiritual needs. And just a quick overview of what I mean by spiritual. Sense of meaning, identity, destiny, and purpose. These are all things that the child will develop as they live their relationships out. And then also perceiving that the child's well-being stops at achieving developmental milestones or certain academic goals may result in the accidental neglect of a deeper need, that is the child's need for strong relationships. So all of this, when we function in our daily life, we don't have this typically at the front of our minds. All of these things tend to be operating at the back of our minds. So it is good to bring them up to the surface, and that's why I intended to have this kind of lesson at the beginning, because what good is it if I give you strategies of how to deal with a behavior, but then to what end? And how are we understanding those behaviors, and how are these behaviors communicating a deeper need that we might not be seeing? But research is able to dig deeper and tell us those things that we engulfed in those daily challenges may not be able to see. So I hope that this wasn't too vague, too intense, or too complicated. I hope it will at least open your minds to different possibilities of how to look and understand negative behavior. At the beginning, there are a couple more sessions that are kind of similar in this format. But again, I get closer and closer to what everyone is looking for, which is how do we manage behaviors and explosive behaviors and so on. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you later. Take care, guys.